Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. What a crazy week I've had. Before I get started in it, first off, everyone's fine. Thought I'd let you guys know that, not let you wait till the end. The other thing is, sorry about last week, but I think by the end of this video, you'll understand why I've missed 2 videos. By the way, those are the first 2 videos I've missed in almost 2 years, so that's kind of bizarre. It all started New Year's Eve at 4 in the morning. I get a phone call from my daughter. She's currently in Kingston, which is, under normal driving conditions, about 2 hours away. And she is very sick. She has a fever, she's throwing up, and currently, because her boyfriend's up here in Ottawa, she's all by herself. And she was, young and scared, and well, there's nothing else for me to do. I have to go down there. I have to see her. Even if she had support, I would go down and take care of her and make sure she's all right. So it's 4 in the morning, and that evening, those of you who are in Ottawa will remember, we had first some ice pellets and then a bunch of snow. So the driving conditions are nowhere near good. But I drive all the time. I drive in all kinds of weather because of what I do. So it was fine. I didn't think it was too bad, and so I started driving. My biggest concern is when I got off of the city highway and I turned south, that it might get a little worse because, depending upon who's doing the roads, different companies are different. So anyway, I drive, and it takes me almost an hour to get across the city, which is normally about a 20-minute drive. So I am going slow. So even at this pace, Kingston's going to be like 5 hours from here minimum. But it's still roughly, from my perspective, the best way of getting there. So I turned south on the highway, and I'm driving to the road conditions. I always do that because it's the only smart thing to do. Someone passes me, and this is why I have this clip here. This is actually not his vehicle, by the way. I just pulled that off the internet because, it's 5 in the morning, and I'm tired, and all sorts of other things are going through my mind, so I didn't have the presence of mind to take a picture of his particular vehicle. But he passes by me, hits a patch of ice and snow, starts to do the dance, and then clips the guardrail and flips over. So I'd come to a stop, of course, and when he went over, he was close enough to me that I could actually see all the details of the underneath of his car as he flipped over. So I stopped, I called 911, of course, and get everybody on the way, and then, of course, go check him out, make sure he's all right. And I opened up his car door, and there's nowhere to be seen. Well, the reason was he was fine. He had crawled out the other side, but I hadn't seen it because the car was blocking the way. So anyway, I make sure he's fine, wait for ambulance and fire and police and all that to get there and tell my story. And then it's now 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I still have to get to Kingston. I've been talking to my wife and my daughter in the interim. I told my daughter just to call an ambulance and get taken to the hospital, and I will try and find a way of getting there. Everyone has thought that I should, just go home. So what I did is I went home, waited an hour, got my wife to drive me to the train station, and took the train down to Kingston. So this took quite a while. So I got the train to Kingston, then I took a bus and got to the hospital, and I got there, and I could, help her make decisions and make sure she was okay. And the nice thing about being at the hospital is once they have you all hooked up to all kinds of things, and I can see what her rhythms are and everything else, and everything looked pretty good, except her pulse was really high. Anyway, to try not to drag this out too much, she was severely dehydrated, and of course, because it's New Year's Eve and then of course New Year's Day, the doctors were kind of turning over pretty fast, and so it was a bit of a chaotic mess. Most of them were really quite nice. And anyway, long story short, they pumped her full of liquids, did 500 million tests, and in the end, they figured out that Yes, she was dehydrated. She had a bug, and they got her pulse back down to normal, which is the thing that she was concerned about because it was quite high. But it did that because, of course, she was dehydrated. Anyway, by the end of New Year's Day, she was back to normal-ish, still feeling quite sick and tired, of course, because 2 days in an ER is not fun if anyone's ever done it. And we're all exhausted. By this point, her boyfriend is also here. A funny thing to this story as well is the night before all this started, they were talking, and she was feeling kind of poorly, so she said she's going to turn off her phone and, try and get a good night's sleep, and suggested that he do the same. So she tried calling him in the middle of the night when she called me, and of course his phone's off, and can't get a hold of him, leaves messages. But it's the holidays, so he's asleep and doesn't get these messages until he wakes up in the morning. And then, of course, panics like everybody else and cancels his holidays. And he's actually a really nice fellow, and it's a good indication of character. He came all the way back, got the first bus he could catch, and came and got there by the evening of New Year's Eve. So I've been there, I don't know how long at this point. But anyway, I was exhausted from all my interesting travels and stress and everything else. So late, once it was getting quite late, I didn't want to wait too long. I told him I was going to grab a nap, so I went and booked a hotel for the night, and I actually just slept for at least 3 or 4 hours. And he stayed there and kept her company, which is really cool because it gave me a chance to refresh at least a little bit of my batteries so I can make some rational decisions. And then came back, and of course we sat there together. He had been up most of the night at that point with her, so told him to go and get a nap. He went and went home to their apartment, got a shower and everything else, and then came back as well, and we waited out the last little bit. Anyway, this has gone on way too long, so I just want to let you know everyone's well. They're all home now. I'm home. But because by the time I got home, it was just too late to do anything. And also because when I got home, I got greeted by this. This is the ultra low-tech marine setup I had going. And while I was away, the auto water change system I had hooked up on it, I had decided to use an old tank, this one up here, and as you can see, it decided it was going to spring a leak. Well, it was 20 years old, so I mean, it was my fault for picking it, but it leaked. It drained down the marine tank, so the underground filter wasn't running at all, and as you see, the corals aren't happy. And at this point, I have removed everything from it, put them all in a client's tank so the corals will survive. And unfortunately, this is going to be the end of that experiment. It's unfortunate, but I might restart it again at some point. But it was kind of meh to begin with, so I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go. One of the other small problems with that was, as you can see here, a lot of that salt water ended up in this tank, which fortunately had guppies and rainbows in it, so they're fairly salt tolerant. It didn't really bother them. But surprisingly, it actually killed off a bunch of hornwood, which is not a big deal because I throw out a bucket of it a month anyway. But like I said, it was just kind of weird. And anyway, so I'm going to do all our water changes on this, get it all set up and going again. It's no big deal. And of course, I'll repurpose that tank for something else. But at this point, I was pretty exhausted. I had, like I said, a very trying week. And I didn't trust myself to use any power tools or machines of any kind to do any work for Friday's video. So I also missed Friday's video. And then actually after I slept a few days and whatnot, I started doing some work. But then, of course, the new week showed up and I had to go back to work. And I didn't have enough time for today's video. So what I did was I got started working on the matten filter I was supposed to do last Wednesday. I want to do a multi-chamber one. Well, actually, it's going to be a compact one, which is going to have like a module, but it's going to have sponges that are going to be like back to front. And I mean, this one here is working really, really well, but most people don't have that kind of space. So I want to make a more compact one. And like I said, I started working on it. But between all the work I had to catch up on, and also getting my fish room cleaned up, getting that tank all straightened away and everything else, I really didn't have time to get it up and running for today, so I'll definitely have that up and running for you for Friday. So thanks very much for listening to my crazy story and how my week went. And hopefully things will smooth out now and I get to some regular builds and videos and all that sort of stuff. And I will incorporate this, which is going to be the module, into a matten filter. And I will show you that all on Friday. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. And bye for now.